Welcome, folks. Welcome to the, I'll say, final session for the entire Sergio cohort. All the people who have stayed, with the journey last 1 month. We are finally at the final speaker session. Obviously, the cohort is not ending. We will be having more sort of a hackathon also following this, but this is the final speaker session today. With me, I have Alap today. No Aditya, no Suhas. Hi Alap. You would
Hi,
like to
Abhay.
to the
It's
community?
going to be an amazing session.
Yeah. So before wasting any further time, I'll just quickly share the screen and we can start. Just give me a second.
Just give us a thumbs up when you're able to see the screen.
Yes. Yes.
Ooh.
Screen visible, Alap? I think.
Yes, it's visible to me. Would love to get some feedback from the people as well.
Yes. So, for warm up, I think we'll do a quick pop quiz exercise as we do on each session. And this is, I think, few people requested to do it again. So we are doing this entire guess the company name, jumbling of the company words again. So kind of fastest finger first version of TPF and Insurjo. So we'll be showing the company names on the next few slides. You'll have to guess in the chat what is the correct company name. And maybe Alap just help the team with identifying who is the first person to answer. So
Definitely. It's going to be a crazy thing. I
here
love
we
when these things
go
happen.
first.
Uh, I can say Ishika, who is the one who has
Are
written the
people,
answer
are
first.
people getting it right? Are people getting it
Yes.
right?
Yes, people are getting it right.
Super. This is DoorDash. Yes, I think as Alap mentioned, Ishika, you have got the right answer. Next, I think Alap, maybe you would like to take.
Yes, definitely.
So the question comes here in 3, 2, 1.
If
Put your
somebody else answers this is going to be the best. This is oh damn. Anupama gave the right answer. They have been pouring it so fast. Everyone is now getting
one of the most interesting retention product out there in the world, probably.
totally agree.
Yeah,
I think it's very
super.
super.
Uh, let's move to next company. Showing the company name right on your screen in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, this was the answer. This is the company. It's a developer product. Most of the you people who are tech teams, product teams should have heard about the company. Um,
We
we should,
have a winner for this specific one.
yes,
For me, it's Vinay. I think for everyone it will be Vinay. But yeah, Vinay is the one who's answered it for the first.
absolutely. This is GitLab as the company. And we will be having one last question before we move into the session details. And here you go. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, people got this also, is it?
Yeah, people got this as well.
Very smart set of individuals we have in the community.
We have smart folks in the community. I totally agree. Anupama she's got the second one, but I think this one goes to Ashish. Ashish
Okay.
Patel who reached out. So everyone I think who reached out, who gave the right answer, reach out to everyone. Would reach out to volunteer folks from our team, Bhavya.
Yeah.
And,
Mansukh will ping you
yeah.
for a free treat for the super. So quick shout out to all the partners who has made the entire cohort happen. From right from Web Engage to Dscope to Mo Engage to Airmeet and Streep. Due to help of all of these partners and getting organized this entire cohort, we were able to pull this all the sessions that you have had so far, all the amazing speakers that you have had so far. So huge shout out to all the partners. We have had, very, very interesting set of mentors globally coming in. First session we had with Ravi, then we had session with Rishi from Dscope, we had Anshu from Google, Nalin from Mo Engage, Marcelino from Stream, Anuj from Jupiter, Ankur from Web Engage, Marty from SVPG, and now we have Pavani, and she's coming from Instagram Google. So very, very diverse and very, very product rich experience mentors that we have had. Hope you all of had very, very good learning across all of these sessions. And after the session, I think most of the people had been asking the question for almost 2 sessions now, in terms of how we are going to end the sessions, what is going to be the final assignment, how we are going to evaluate ourselves. So we are going to do product onboarding hackathon, and here is the timeline and important dates of the hackathon. So we are ending the speaker sessions today on 20th Feb. Now you can start working on product onboarding hackathon. The landing page has already been launched, already shared with you on the groups. So you can start working on your solutions. We will be doing on 26th Feb virtual AMA. If you have any questions in the problem statement, if you have any questions in terms of the approach that you are taking to solve the problem statement, and then we will be having 1st March as the final submission deadline. So you have approximately, roughly, 8 to 9 days to submit your responses. These submissions will be in the form of deck. The decks can include prototypes, mockups, anything that you want, but make it as detailed as possible. You can take references from previous, TPF teardowns, but make the best decks out there. Yeah, I think, maybe quick announcements in terms of what you have already, maybe few of have already gotten across last few sessions. But yeah, sweet treats, TPF swag tips, TPF insert to access is what people will be getting. And also, we have already launched, and we have already announced exclusive discounts to product management certification from Indian School of Business ISB. um, I think, Alap, we are now ready to get on board Pavani. So yeah.
So thanks so much, Abhay. It was an interesting. The whole cohort was amazing, and I think the final session is going to be even more amazing, especially with Pavni coming in to take the session. Pavni has been with Google, I think, for the longest time, from since Google was not as big as it was today. She's been with Google for somewhere around 15, 16 years, if I'm not wrong. And then she was a VP of the product at Instagram. We're super excited to have Pavni on here for the session today. We'll bring her on stage, and then probably you will not get bored of us speaking, and probably Pavni can take up from there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think let's bring Pavani on stage. Yes.
Hi, Pavni.
Hi everyone.
Hi,
So
Pavani.
excited to be here.
We
Yeah.
are
What
super
better way
excited
to
for the session.
spend my morning than with a few thousand excited, young, energetic product managers? Nothing like it. So really happy to be here. So
Uh, do you want to quickly share your screen and then we can get started?
yeah, sure. Please let me know when you see it.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can see.
Can see it? Okay, cool. So shall I get started? I'm really yeah,
Yes.
I'm really excited to be here. I think when the product folks invited me, I was like bursting with enthusiasm. So, what I thought we would do today is uh, I will start by telling you a little bit about my career journey and where I've been and the stops I've taken and how I've learned. and that will kind of serve as a backdrop. Those first few minutes will hopefully serve as a backdrop as I talk about some of my experiences and the learnings I've had along the way. And hopefully these are useful to all of you and inspire you to do your best and even reach greater heights than I have. And then the plan is to only talk for half of the time and leave half of it for Q&A, so that we can take the conversation wherever this audience wants it to go. So as I go through, please do make notes of the questions and ask me at the end. So without further ado, let's begin. So my roots are very humble, like a lot of you probably. I was born and raised in India in a middle class family. But from early age, I dug up some pictures just for fun. But from early age, I was very into computers and programming. And luckily, I had parents who encouraged my passions, especially my dad, who worked for IBM, used to take me to his work, and I remember really in elementary school playing with punch cards and mainframes, and that passion for computing has pretty much stayed a constant throughout my life. And now I have two daughters, as you can see, and I also try and encourage their passions, which are not computing; they are physics and astrophysics, but still it is pretty good, a good thing to do. So went to a regional college in India for undergrad, and then kind of moved to US to pursue a master's at Stanford. So that was like a big step forward for me. And when I arrived, I remember thinking that it was very, very intimidating to be in the middle of extreme talent pool. And first quarter or so, I had to kind of come to terms with the fact that there are a lot more smarter people than me around me. And so I shifted my gears and moved into how can I be a sponge and learn from everything and everyone around me. And that has served me well throughout my career. Stanford was a lot of fun because it also opened up the ceiling. They really teach you to think big and be ambitious and solve big problems there. And that also is a lesson that I've kind of kept with me throughout my career. Um, um, after Stanford, my first job was with a company called Sun Microsystems, and it was one of the engineering hothouse at the time. A lot of great engineers worked there. I joined a project there, and my first project, interestingly, was around objects everywhere and Corba, and it failed pretty miserably. So that was an interesting turn of events for me, where the first project didn't go anywhere. Worked for 2 years on it. The big silver lining out of it was that a small group of us from that project ended up joining a team called Oak, which was developing a new language that turned into Java. And Java became an overnight success, and that afforded me a platform to really grow immensely. So that was kind of my first place where I moved from being just an engineer to really being a team lead and then becoming a much bigger leader. Um, um, and I will be talking through some of my growth experiences there as we go through the presentation as well. Now, after Java was successful, I picked up the charge of leading Java's use on server side. So, and that was going pretty well, but I wasn't going to rest on my laurels. So one fine day, I decided with a colleague of mine to throw all that away and start all over by doing my own search startup. This was in '95. Netscape had just happened, and it was like a wild west of innovation in the Bay Area. And we decided what better time than to do our own company. And we I ran that company as a CEO for 2 years before it got acquired, and that also was another amazing growth phase for me, moving from engineering into actually product and running a business, recruiting team, attracting investors, which we were very successful at. We raised money. We built a product, a really good product in a. This was the time when browsers were becoming a platform, and so we built in a toolbar which helped you search better by knowing more about you. And the product and the company was acquired by Excite at Home within 2 years, and it was a really fabulous exit for the whole team. Um, and then the next few years at Excite at Home, the growth for me was how do you assimilate a small company into a large one without losing your soul, and how do you help the company grow within another company. So that was an amazing experience as well. When I was working for Excite at Home, again, it was also extremely talented people around me. Um, and so a lot of fun, I managed the messaging products there. So it was my first foray into managing instant messaging and email products. And I noticed that the spam was fairly a prevalent problem, and the tool we were using at the time was not really very effective. And so um, after Excite at Home, I had my first daughter, and so I decided to take a break from work. And I remember when she was about 3 months old, I got bored and I enrolled myself in the Stanford like MBA program on the side. And while I was doing that, I spent most of my time not in the classes, but actually working on the idea of my second company, which turned out to be a security company and anti-spam company called Mail Frontier. When we started now it is in 2001, and the climate is really bad. Everyone is saying it's the worst time to be starting anything, but we didn't listen. Me and my co-founder, who was a friend from Stanford, and we started this company. And this story was it was not easy. It was a story of grit and not giving up. Um, and especially the first year and a half to 2 years were extremely difficult. But we had a sound idea. We built a great product, and we survived the initial challenges and actually got into market and did really well. We ended up with like close to 3,500 enterprise customer. It was also a big growth period for me because it was the first time that I was really running a company that was not a consumer company. It was we mainly cater to mid market, and so how do you market, how do you sell, what kind of product implications are important to that set of customers. So it was also a big growth period. We ran it for about 4 years. Again, the company got acquired by another company. Um, by this time, my daughter was about 4 years old, so I decided I haven't spent enough time with her and took a break for almost a year. And then after that, some of the folks I'd worked with at Excite at Home invited me to Google, which is where I spent, I would say, bulk of my career, about 14 years at Google. Google was amazing growth period as well in a very different way. The day you arrive at Google, very quickly you realize you're going to have to, it was such a different company inside that I had to unlearn everything I had learned and then kind of relearn the Google way, which was in a lot of ways a whole lot better. But some of the values I had developed really helped me with my Google journey, of courage, of grit, of can-do attitude, of rolling up the sleeves. All the things I picked up in my startups really helped me through Google. Google, there are a lot of things I've done, a lot of amazingly successful projects and also failures, which is part of the Google culture and learning process. But the big highlights for me were like early on, first few years, we started a project. While I was managing calendar and blogger, there was a group of people looking at bringing Google to schools and businesses, 2 or 3 engineers. And I was very intrigued by that, having come from startups, having tried to install Exchange. When you're a startup CEO, you're also the sysadmin. And so I had a lot of pain. I felt a lot of pain, and I thought that we could do a lot better job. Plus, I was a very active parent in my kids' school, and I know that the tools there suffered and lagged. So we started this project, and it was an amazing ride for a few years, almost the beginning of the cloud. When we started, no businesses or schools used Google, and when we ended, when I left the project after a few years, almost all schools used Google in US, and also a lot of majority of small businesses also took to Google, Gmail, all the apps, Gmail, Calendar, Docs. So it was an amazing ride, going from zero to a prominent market share, and a lot of fun experience. Some of the other highlights at Google is I also spent a few years helping Google be a better platform for kids and youth. And there, some of the big successes or stories were introducing parent controls for Android through an app called Family Link that now every Android parent uses. We also did YouTube Kids, which has also been a very popular app with younger kids. And there was a host of other things we did as that project that I'm pretty proud of in terms of making a difference and giving parents visibility to what the kids are doing online. Fast forward a little bit, last 2 years at Google were Google One, which was working on a premium layer of Google, a subscription product, a unified subscription product. And that just crossed 100 million subscribers. So I'm really happy about that as well. After Google, again, 14 years at Google, I decided was a lot. My older daughter was going off to college, and I wanted to spend some time with her. So I left Google thinking I would retire. And then after a year of break, decided retirement wasn't for me. And then I went back to Intuit, where I led their engineering for their main business that catered to small and medium businesses. It wasn't the best fit for me culturally, the company, but still had a great time, amazing people. And after that, Meta came along, and so I joined Facebook. First phase of that was in Messenger, running Messenger Kids, and then after that joined Instagram to help improve the Instagram platform for teens and youth, and again introduced parent controls for Instagram users, young Instagram users, which was fairly well received, and had really great fun just working there as well. I put my paintbrushes on here because whenever I'm not working and not spending time with my family and my kids, you can find me painting. It's one of my other passions, and also I love travel and adventure. And so with that, I hope this serves as a great backdrop. What I'm going to now shift gears on and talk a little bit about is some of the learnings I've had before we go to Q&A. I've kind of split the presentation in 3 stages. One is what in the beginning stage of any project, some of my thoughts and pieces of nuggets of advice, build phase, and then the grow phase. And hopefully in the Q&A, we can spend a lot of time on how can you grow yourself. So I'm looking forward to it. Today is not about tools for product managers or tool for product leaders, or it is much more about what through my stories, some fun and some not so fun, I hope to inspire you about the values and the qualities you need to have in order to be a successful leader and pave your own path. So let's get started. Um, okay, so first part is about some of the beginning advice. This is, I find, is the most exciting and important part of any chapter. And three things I always talk about in this phase. One is uh, always lead and be proactive. Uh, Second is don't underestimate the importance of telling your story right. And third is it's really important to back up with action quickly in the beginning. So, uh, giving this a little bit more color on the first one, I have found that every time I've done something really big or substantial, it's been right after I've created some space for myself, like taking a pause or taking a break or doing something, doing some painting or doing something really different. So I always, one of the things I share is don't fill up your calendar to the brink with your current things so much that you can't think of big new ideas. And intentionally create space. This doesn't have to be week to week or month to month even. My formula has been every few years I take a little time out, and I end up doing, I give myself some room to explore, and I have always amazed myself in terms of what I've come up with to do next. I'm in one of those phases right now. And really happy about it. Uh, when I did Mail Frontier, also, as I mentioned, I had taken a little break to have a baby, and out came Mail Frontier along with the baby. So that was pretty amazing. A lot of really great companies like Google and others have institutionalized to this concept through the 20% time, where you can have like 1 day a week to do whatever you want, and it kind of creates that empty space necessary to really be creative and think boldly. And especially at Google, when I joined, I remember hearing these stories of the formation of Gmail or formation of Google Maps. A lot of these happened in that 20% time. So I cannot stress the importance of creating that space in your calendar as you look, as you go about your product managing. The second thing I wanted to talk about is to be proactive. It's one of the hallmarks of um, exceptional people, where they are leading in their thinking and not following, and they believe in themselves and then they take the leap. um, uh, you kind of have to feel the need of something you want to do and really believe in it to take that leap. The story of earlier I shared briefly about Google Apps was one of those things where I had been through the startup pain of using the tools, and they were terrible. At that time, Outlook and Exchange was really hard and cumbersome to set up. And I kind of knew in my bones that there is something big here. And so when I joined Google and I found a couple of like minded engineers who were thinking along the same lines, I took the leap. I jumped at the idea. I joined them, even though I was running at the time, I was running Calendar and Blogger and some of the bigger apps. I was intentional about making space to cultivate this idea. It was like doing a startup within Google. And within a year or two, the effort became so big that it pretty much had to give up on everything else to focus on this Google Apps for Business and EDU. So I think by being proactive, by believing in myself, and also finding some like-minded early partners really helped me um, take it from an idea in my head to really a project that we took to market. And lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the importance of navigating, learning how to navigate the unknown. A lot of strong innovation comes from being comfortable with being uncomfortable, um, uh, being okay to fail, having grit when you fail to get up and keep going. Um, it's very easy to not to look at a problem and then just sit there and not take the risk. And my startup experience taught me that bigger the risk and bigger the challenge, larger the reward is at the end of it. So I think a lot of people talk about working on hard problems to be a good thing, navigating unknown to be a good thing. And I have also found that as part of my experience. I think I think it helped me that very first project I was part of failed pretty miserably. I think even on Java, we had a bunch of failed steps before we really found our home bearing. Um, in Google, I talked about a lot of my highlights, but there was an equal share of failed projects. For example, I was part of Google Plus, which didn't go anywhere because we were too late to the game. And a lot of it is you learn how to deal with the failure, be comfortable with the uncomfortable only by taking risks. Um, the Some of the techniques I've used to really push myself is when I'm at the beginning of an idea or a startup that looks really scary, or a project that looks like this is too ambitious, I kind of do a what ifs exercise and I write down what happens if it fails, what happens if it's only mildly successful, right? And I write all of it down and I look at it, and if I can live with it, then I feel like I'm okay to keep going. I know that a lot of people have other ways to deal with this as well, but it's important also to realize that it takes a lot of courage and foresight to start something new, and it's important to really be able to navigate the unknown and be comfortable with it. That's part of taking the risks. So the second thing in the beginning part of the phase that's incredibly important is to tell your story effectively. And I help a lot of entrepreneurs, and I know how difficult this can be to do it right. And a lot of people don't understand, grok the importance of communicating well, writing the idea down, doing an elevator pitch, writing that first press release on day one, like from the beginning. What is your launch keynote going to look like? And to practice and test this continuously with others to hone the message, right? I used to always, in my startup days, talk to the supporters first to get some energy, and then also talk to the naysayers so that I find out all the hard questions, because in the end, it makes you stronger. Early believers are important, but early non-believers are equally important. And this is, I also want to share with you, like when I started, I was not very good at it. This is a learned skill that anyone can learn. I got a coach, I took classes, I recorded myself, I practiced. My third version was okay. My 10th version was perfection. So this is important not just when you're doing a startup, but it's also extremely important in a large company context, in a day-to-day job of a product manager. Inspiring the team is the best thing you can do to get them going, motivating them in a proper way. Uh, I mean, one example that comes to mind is when I was doing Google for Kids, Google for Youth. I realized that every corner of Google needed help in terms of upgrading the platform, uh, search, YouTube, everything, Android, right? But we didn't really have the resources. My little horizontal team did not have the resources. The only way to do this would be to motivate the company to help us from every corner of Google. And I remember doing a TGIF 10-minute pitch on it. And the next thing I knew, every parent from every corner of Google wanted to help. So in reality, I had a fairly small team of about 50 people. But in practice, I had few hundred Googlers who wanted to help with the project to get it to a better place. So this is like the power of telling your story well, and inspiring others to really help. Extremely important. I think we're going to do a poll here. I want to know, can we please put up the first poll?
Yes. Okay, so I think we have already also put it on stage. Most of the people, I think, has mentioned 30% plus.
Okay, so that is pretty correct. I have to say that you're a very educated audience, and now I'm feeling a bit silly about even asking the question. But I'm really happy to hear. I think people routinely underestimate the amount of time any product manager or a leadership job spends communicating. And this isn't just presenting, right? It is, and it's not just boardroom and large audiences, it's also hallways, it's town halls, it's talking to experts, talking to users, talking to novices, right? Customers, partners, investors. It's very typical to spend about at least 30% of your time doing this. And higher up you go, like as you become a senior product manager, a director, a leader, this frequently goes to about becomes about 40 to 50% of your job. So something that takes over half of your week, we need to put in the time to do it, do a great job at it. And there's a bunch of uh, tools available, people available who can help you get to a great place. Mentors can help here a lot as well. So the third thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is well begun is half done. I've seen a lot of projects not go from idea to anywhere. And lot of times the problem is twofold. They don't find their focus first set of features that they have to do quickly, and the second thing is they don't act with urgency. So the both of these are important. As you all know way better than I do even, that product strategy is all about focus and saying no to most things and yes to only one or two important things, right? And whatever I've seen also, people fail not on focus is not just knowing what those one or two important things are, but then also putting your best and the most resources on those one or two things. You have to kind of put teeth in the game by um, backing your in backing it with your proper investment and action. So a story I like to share is the story of founding of Gmail. I don't. There's a great blog post by Paul, who was one of the founders of Gmail. And when Gmail first started, they decided the two most important things they can do focus on was a speedy search, because Google was about search, and storage. And then came other things like security and Ajax and everything else. But Tim was ruthless about prioritizing the first step. And their goal really was to be loved by a lot of people, but not all, but tolerated by everyone. So I thought that was such it's an endearing story. I was there for some part of it when I joined in 2005. Gmail had just launched. Um, and it is a story of extreme focus in the first year of product, and I encourage you to read it. On the lesson of urgency, I've always said that as soon as we get started, I want to see a prototype in a few weeks. But this really kind of came to face when I joined Facebook. As you know, Facebook is all about speed. And first week I joined Facebook, I was in a boot camp, and the expectation was within 3 days that I was to ship a bug fix for a privacy problem that was so complex that I did not sleep for 3 days. And I was like, wait, what? Wait, I was a vice president at Google for 14 years, and they are expecting me to do a complex bug fix and ship it to their users in 3 days. Um, but I realized after that week that it was the best week, and it really ingrained in me how much of their culture is more fast. When I came out of bootcamp and I looked around, every project moved fast. It was just kind of part of their DNA. And I have kept that lesson with me, which is don't wait. And anything that can be done tomorrow, you can do today. So, uh, so the third thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was about being stubborn on the vision and flexible on the path. Uh, I have seen a bunch of projects that just kind of fail because they come on the roadblock and they cannot navigate. An example I give is like when I was doing Mail Frontier, the first few months we were very focused on the consumer need. So we did an app called Matador that worked with Outlook to filter out your spam. But we quickly realized as a little company, we couldn't get the app to be distributed fast enough for us to make enough money to survive. And so we decided to do enterprise product, and we I always felt good about that, even though it was a pretty big pivot for the company, because I felt like we were being true to our vision for taking unwanted things out of the inbox and messages. So we were flexible on the path we took, but we were very, very stubborn on our vision of what we wanted to do. I know that a lot of successful companies have gone on a curvy road before they've arrived, but they've always stayed true to their calling and true to their values. Those are the two things you don't give up on easily. And the last thing here was um, a lot of companies fail, a lot of projects fail because they cannot see the future, but a lot more fail because they see the future, but they don't invest in it. Bigger the company it is, harder it is to give up the current, and bigger the project, harder it is to give up the current way of working for the future way. I mean, you all have heard about probably the story of Facebook's mobile turnaround, where the whole company stopped working on desktop features and only worked on mobile for a while. And that must have taken so much courage and leap of faith. But they saw that mobile was the future, and they were able to give up on the present for a little while so that they could capture the future. I was at Google at the time when mobile revolution was going on, and I remember that when the first set of Android phones arrived, they were like bricks, and there was a lot of company that was saying we don't want to give up working on search and ads for these bricks. But luckily, the Android team was so passionate, and there was enough support in the company to say, no, there's something here. This is the way uh, we are going to go. And so we're going to continue to invest in it. Like the 70-20-10 framework that you hear in Google of investment, where you do 70% core, 20% 2 years time horizon projects, and 10% like long-term projects, is a great framework to adopt as you think about these problems. Um, so keeping on going. The next thing I'm going to talk a little bit about is the build, what I would call the build phase, where how do you build trust with the teams that you're working with? How do you effectively drive forward? Like, what are the key things, essential things, and then some couple of crucial best practices. I had a hard time like narrowing it down to only this much, so bear with me as we go through it. I think everyone knows like recruiting an A team is the most important investment of time that any leader, a product leader, can do. And we focus a lot on quality when we recruit, and I think that's a good thing. What I found when I was doing my startups and scrappy projects was that enthusiasm actually goes a long way. And when I had young companies, it was hard to recruit people with a lot of experience. And so we kind of traded, we did not lower our bar on skills, but we did trade experience for enthusiasm. And it worked out really well with us, for us, because it really helped build a culture of anything can be done, a very positive can do culture. And that's something it comes when people are naturally enthusiastic about your cause. So it's something I always look for in my recruiting efforts. I think I can talk about the importance of diverse teams endlessly. Of course, gender diversity is incredibly important to get right from get go. But also, diversity of backgrounds, diversity of experience is really important. When I was part of Java team and it was about 10 people, one thing I noticed is that no, the people's background were extremely diverse. No one team member thought alike, and that was a good thing. Every decision was debated. It was a heated debate, and that was a really good thing because the decisions that came out of that team were extremely good and robust. So I cannot stress enough the importance of having diverse team and shared values. Um, on building trust with team, I've seen a lot of product managers are more top down sometimes, and that doesn't work. So my leadership style is much more about servant leadership. I learned this the hard way also, and that's a story for another time. But what I really truly believe is that you are all about serving the team and building a shared vision. You're about empowering the team to succeed, and you can only do that if you are actually fostering a very safe, inclusive and caring environment. um, I want to share a little nugget of the project Google one when I was doing it. This was the premium unified subscription cross Google. It was a very hard project because it was a cross Google project. We wanted, for example, to do a single unified storage quota. Every area of Google Drive had its own quota, Gmail had its own quota. So it was a project that went through numerous iterations and so many roadblocks, and it was curvy, and we would have never made it unless I had full trust of the team. And they were pretty much coming on the road no matter how hard the road got. And part of that was because we had cultivated a culture where we made decisions together, where I was fully transparent with my team about the challenges ahead. And whenever we made turns and pivots, we did it together. So leading clearly, communicating openly, and keeping team as on the table as first class citizens really go a long way. This mostly people get it. Where it tends to fail is when you go to larger scale, when you have a few hundred people that you're managing. People hide behind the fact that it's very hard to do this, and because it becomes a consensus culture, and I don't agree with that. I think you can do it for every size of the team. You can still be a servant leader. um, and it's equally important to build trust with the users of your product, and that also the same principles can apply. Communicating, being transparent, communicating openly, listening to their feedback, acting on their feedback is what builds trust. um, I have a fair amount of scars from some of my early Facebook experiences where the company lacked outside trust. So no matter what we did, it was hard to make progress. But I think we turned that one around when we actually started genuinely listening and making a difference on the Instagram platform for teens. Um, um, uh, so I think some of the other things I've found is regular forums like TGIF or Ask Me Anything for customers. They're a fabulous way to increase trust. On driving forward, um, uh, I talked a little bit already about three things I think are very important in terms of effectively driving forward in the build phase. I talked a lot about focus already. So I'll talk a little bit on metrics and accountability. Um, I think I feel like people get it in terms of having data at front and center when you're trying to build your V1 and V2 and making roadmaps for the future. But when I went to Google, my first quote unquote, Google had a way where because they wanted you to learn the Google way, they would give you a starter project. And my starter project, because I'd come from Mail Frontier and spam background, was Gmail anti-spam team. So I picked that up, and I remember attending the first meeting, and more than half of the meeting was spent staring at the dashboard, which it had things had just launched, so a lot of the dashboard was empty, but it was creating that habit of force where we would always look at data before deciding our next steps. Analytics were never an afterthought. You couldn't launch anything unless the uh, unless the analytics and the dashboard was already in place. And There was so much importance given to the activity levels in every area of the project. So how deep they went was a big of eye opener for me. Um, Facebook also same similar story where they're so data driven and every decision is backed by data. Uh, and that's what helps them navigate fast and also make decisions that are robust. Um, I also want to say that qualitative feedback is even more important. Listening to the users and the user stories, not just a quantitative metrics. So that's also needs to be built as part of the culture. Now, the same group, my starter project group, also that's where I learned a lesson on extreme accountability. I remember in my first month there was an outage, and I sat down to look at in the postmortem meeting, and Google postmortem meetings are just absolutely eye-opening and amazing, and where teams take complete accountability for everything. There's no posturing, no excuses, no blame, just wanting to learn from the mistake and get to a better place. And it is such a safe, they create such a safe environment that it makes it very easy to say, yeah, we made a mistake, I made a mistake. Also, what was interesting to me is that extreme accountability went up and down, cross functions, all levels. We were all in this together. So I found these three things, focus, metrics, and accountability, to be essential ingredients in the build phase where you when you start doing launch, rinse, repeat. And lastly, some of the best practices, I was trying to pick which ones to talk about here. And I think uh, large part of a product manager's job, you develop a product strategy, you create a roadmap, right? And the team is executing on the roadmap. And there is two-way interactions happening, but there is always roadblocks. So, like, how do you identify roadblocks? How do you bash through them? And the best example I can give for this is the uh, uh, Google. In Google, there was a initiative that the CFO launched called Bureaucracy Busters. So Google had grown quite a bit, and there were a bunch of very bad growing pains, and the teams were getting very frustrated with the challenges they were encountering, like big launch processes, and they were spending a lot of time doing busy work. And but there was a ton of vending going on, but no progress. And this thing launched called Bureaucracy Buster, where anyone inside Google can identify what's blocking them. And overnight, there was a list of a few hundred of these um, uh, problem statements that arrived in this tool, and then people aggressively voted, and there were like 50,000 votes and then there was there was a factor where if you were doing something that ended up on that list, then you hunker down and quickly try to fix it. So what I saw was a sea of change happen because of this initiative. And within a month, the first year itself, it was so successful, it became like an annual practice for a while. So I think the key lesson here is that tap into the collective wisdom to even identify the roadblock, and create a process where at least the ownership is felt by the teams to also solve the problem, uh, not just vent. Um, like, yeah, great example of channeling a large group to identify, own, and solve and improve their own productivity, product productivity. I've seen this same philosophy applied also to improving product roadblocks, etc. Second thing I picked was decision making. It's something that I I think it takes a lot to make a good healthy decision and to stick to it. Um, uh, and there's a lot of good frameworks out there. The one that I really like is crucial conversation and crucial decision making. Where it says it's really important as a product manager to lay out all options. You might have your favorite recommendation, but it's important to lay out all options and discuss pros and cons and trade-offs and impact before you talk about your own recommendations. And it's also important to realize that all decisions are not created equal. Like some are one-way doors, some are two-way and lighter weight. And it is, of course, bigger the decision, more one way it is, more thought needs to go through it. All stakeholders are not created equal also, and it is important to learn how to manage it. A lot of times I found at Google that decisions were made before the decision meeting, just by managing the stakeholder process. And it took me a while and a lot of mentoring to really crack that. Um, so one thing I remember also at Google was there was a point, also part of bureaucracy, but someone mentioned that we are having a lot of meetings, but we are not really making progress in these meetings. Like we're not, it's not clear. Frequently you go into a meeting and there is like, you're not sure who the decider is because a lot of it is cross team, cross functional um, progress that needed to be made. And so then someone suggested, why don't we always never have a meeting unless we ask the first question you should ask when you go into a meeting is, who's the decider in this meeting? And that kind of overnight became the norm. And we would go into a meeting and no one wanted to talk about anything until we knew who was the decider for the decision in the meeting. And then we recorded and created an accountability to after the meeting too. So I think adopting one of these framework and being intentional about stakeholder management, how you run the meetings, is going to go a long way. Um, uh, I would like to talk about how you manage pivots and change. Change is a fact of life in tech. So can we put up a poll before we do that, please? So how do you manage a roadmap pivot? What is essential in it?
Yeah. So for this one, I think most of the people are selecting that, do it intentionally and help team understand and buy into the change. Few people, maybe probably negligible people have selected any other option. So which one will be right,
Yeah.
Pavni, in this?
Yeah, so I'm not sure you need me for this audience. No,
No, no,
that's a
no.
great
There,
answer.
there weren't a lot in previous sessions, probably.
Yeah, I think it is important to be intentional and proactive about your pivots and not do it unintentionally, no matter how small or big it is. And my other input is that for larger pivots, it's almost important to treat them as a new beginning. because when you make the pivot, you're essentially like when we moved from being a consumer company to an enterprise company, there was a major pivot in my startup at Mill Frontier. And there were people who fell off when we did that, right? And it was almost like new beginning. But if you're intentional about it and people understand why you're doing it, then they can decide whether they're on board with the new turn or not. I've seen a lot of change not being mismanaged, because people just make the change and assume that everyone will just come along. And it's important to create some space where you are actually processing. You let the teams process the change in product roadmap pivots, or whatever change you're making, market direction. So that's another thing I would mention. Okay, moving to the last one before the Q&A is growing. And here there are three things I picked: scaling product and teams, developing a healthy culture, and then how do you grow you. So I'll try and go through this quickly, so we have some time to spend on the questions that are incoming already. I see them. So first on scaling product and team, again, I think let's maybe start with a poll, and then we can talk a little bit about some of these topics. Can you please put up the poll? Okay.
Okay,
So
so
where are we?
answers are in. I think people are saying scaling intentionally, considering the outlook and ability to absorb scale, keeping team high bar is what I think 90% of people have selected, and about
Yeah,
5% are split between the other two options.
right. So I think here what's interesting is there is not one right answer.
Hmm.
Um, I think every situation is different and demands a different tactic, but it is important to be intentional about it. Uh, I would say that having learned the lesson where I have scaled the project too fast, um, and found that my revenues were trailing, or the product wasn't really growing as much as we had, and then you go through what you would call very severe growing pains. I have learned to only do it where when very intentionally and thoughtfully. And there have also been times where I've grown to meet the product demand curve, but my teams, as a result, the culture has been impacted because we grew too fast, and we ended up getting people who are not quite on board with our value system. And again, pretty severe growing pain to fix. So I err on the side of it's okay to be smaller than you need. I also believe that smaller teams and being scrappy and incurring that pain creates a natural forcing function for teams to learn about focus. Uh, and so I kind of lean on, I would say, either growing slowly or growing like intentionally as much as you can absorb the scale and not growing too fast. But there has been situations when I've given this type of talks before, where people will come back to me with situations where it would have been good to grow faster. um, I think the other thing I want to talk about is growing people ahead of product. It's really very quickly, people, when the product is doing well and you are on the hockey stick or the beginning of the hockey stick, it's really easy to say, let's just recruit more people. But I think what is also equally important is that you can only scale as much as you can only grow as much as your people are growing. And so to invest equally and actually up leveling the team skill set is something that I have seen teams don't do effectively. And that takes time and effort also. And then we talked a little bit about growth coming at the cost of quality, which can be avoided if you have strong recruiting practices, but and also culture where you grow so quickly that you're kind of losing, getting lost. Your essence of your teams are getting lost, and so something to watch out for. And the last thing I want to talk about is this is a mistake I have seen big companies make a lot, which is they don't set the operating as you grow, like dynamics are going to change, how you work is going to change. If you don't get the structure right, then you end up with too big teams or not enough, not good chunks of work. So it's really important to draw the lines of the parts well as you grow and set up good operating rhythm. When you are 8 people and when you're 800 people, we in Java team, for example, we went from 8 to 800 in a span of a year and a half. And if we hadn't divided up responsibilities and picked good team structure, then I think it would have been impossible to make progress as a team of 800. And also, as part of this, when you go through this one of these very extreme growth exercises, you realize very quickly that the people who got you to where you were might not be the right or the best people for the next phase of growth. So part of this is also being intentional about what type of team, not just the quality of team that you want to recruit for the next phase of growth. So moving forward, um, developing a healthy culture, we started to talk a little bit about it. Like if you look at Google for a long time, um, there was a certain set of values that what being googly was about. It was about excellence in engineering. It was about taking initiative. It was about helping others. Um, uh, uh, and I was when I joined Google, I was very intrigued as to how this got written up and codified by everyone. And I realized that it's really about the rituals and the behaviors and the belief that you follow day to day, right? And it is about what, for example, what people and team set as rules, uh, what they celebrate, what they appreciate, what they demand in terms of the quality bar. So culture, what I'm trying to say is culture is people, and it will not stay constant as you grow, and it will and likely should change, but the values, your beliefs should not ideally change. um, and I feel like every person in the company has responsibility and accountability towards the culture of the company. And especially as a product leader, product manager, you're a critical leader in setting and also living this culture. So I think the best quote I found when I was looking was by Noam, where he's like, who you hire, fire, or let go really shows your culture. So um, so it's something, it's culture also. I think you all know, like if the culture is not right, no matter how brilliant your product strategy is, it is not going to be successful. So culture is the engine that drives everything, and so it is important again to spend some time. And sometimes I've also found like the team culture, they're even better sometimes for certain teams than the company culture. So you can create even in your own teams a solid foundation with a great culture. Um, okay, so this brings us to the last kind of advice nugget slide in terms of how do you grow yourself. And I think as I went through my journey, uh, you probably saw my formula has been that I I thrive on challenges, and so every few years, 2 3 years, I have taken on taken on a completely new project, completely new environment, completely new area, where I had no expertise, completely new functions a lot of times, and I put myself in a place, and then it's sink or swim. And my biggest growth has come because of these pivots I've made intentionally. I've also taken risks with respect to my growth. Like when I left Sun, I was almost a distinguished engineer. I was doing really well as an on the engineering ladder. And I kind of threw it all away to start my own company. And I didn't know anything about what it takes to be a good CEO. But I put myself in the place. And then what I found is I'm actually a better leader than I'm an engineer. And I'm a really good negotiator, and I would have never found that if I hadn't just taken the challenge, taken the risk to grow myself. And so it's incredibly important. I've also found myself where I'm not in place where I'm not making progress, or the environment isn't quite a fit for me, or it's toxic, and have um, have never really thought twice before moving on from that place, either go to a new project. And that's also been good in terms of finding, believing in myself and finding my voice and finding a place where I can really thrive. So I always also encourage people to do that. We talked a lot about me always wanting to create some space to foster creativity and cultivate some bigger ideas. And that has really helped me pick projects of impact where I can have good. The other thing I have done is whenever I start a project, and from the beginning, I'm thinking of a succession plan. So I always tell people begin with an end in mind. Like, what do you want to do? Like, if you're a CEO of a startup, you are doing well as a product manager. You want to continue to do this for 5 years, 10 years, 2 years. Like, think about that, and then also it's not easy to have a successor that can really take your legacy and even grow it to the next big heights. Like I was celebrating Google One recently. They reached 100 million subscribers. I started that project, ran it for first 2 years, got it to about 10 million subscribers. And then I kind of found a great leader and home within Google to rest it at. And now look at it. They're even scaling bigger heights. And that's such an awesome feeling. So always have a succession plan. And then lastly, I've been very, very fortunate about having great mentors. Early on in my career, like year 2 or 3, Anita Borg adopted me. She was working for DEC, I was working for Sun, and she kind of really helped grow me very fast. And over the course of years, like when I was doing a startup, I had a couple of mentors who had been there, done that before, and that really expedited my learning and also gave me a place to go when I had hard questions that I did not know answers to. And at Google, again, I had people like amazing mentors like Jeff Huber, who really coached me on all things Google and really made me a better leader, better person, better worker. So I cannot stress enough the importance of having great mentors and having also very close and candid professional circle. You should have a few people that you can always go to for candid advice, where they will tell you if you're going wrong, doing something wrong, or they will coach you on, or they'll guide you on where to go to find answers. And with that, um, in closing, I hope some of these my journey experiences inspire you to be more crazy about your vision and mission, be bold about how and when you begin, be stubborn about your values and culture, and be responsibly impactful, and always be growing. So, and I'm excited. I love this quote by Jobs, because I think you have to think big, and people who are crazy enough to think big and think they can change the world are frequently the ones who end up doing that. So I think I wish that for each and every one of you. And we can go to Q&A now. And happy to take the conversation wherever you need.
Thank you so much, Pavani. It was a really interesting, amazing journey. I think uh,
I think
something which,
people loved it. Yeah.
yeah, I really loved it. Before we get to it, I think I got a couple of DMs as well, and I think a couple of people were writing in the chat as also. So we at TPF we have these teardowns which we do every month with one product. We do a whole ideation part. The product company comes with a problem statement, and then uh, then we have I think 500 teams every time who participate, and then they present in front of the company. So I got a couple of DM asking people that I should ask you if we can do a teardown with Google One. So just putting the idea out, we can discuss that probably later if that's something that excites some
Yeah,
of the
happy
people
to
here.
help. Happy to help. Happy to help. I think some of these stories are good learning experiences of what worked and what didn't work that people can
Exactly.
assimilate. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Perfect. I think we can move to the Q&A part.
Yeah.
We can stop sharing the screen right away so that people can see you very nicely.
I
Perfect.
think initially, Pavni, me and Alap will take, some questions from our side, and then we'll take some questions from the audience. So I think, I'll just trying to see through the chats and through the Q&A tabs. Most of the people had mentioned one specific things, which is probably important to, I'll say probably 99% of the audience out there, is how do you get the opportunities, right? How do you find the opportunities? How do you work harder towards the opportunities? And how do you make sure that once you get the opportunity, you also perform and show yourself out there? So that was first questions would like to ask.
Yeah, so for me, the opportunities have come different ways. So I'll give you some examples. Um, the first opportunity, like when I joined the Java team, it was because a couple of my colleagues who worked with me at that failed project joined the Java team, and they were like, Pamni, please come along because we need help. We need to redo how we do networking. We need to do, at the time, I was deep into systems and threads. And so they kind of pulled me, and when they introduced me to the opportunity and the team, I was so fed up with C++ and multiple inheritance and the complexity of the language that I welcomed the idea of a new language. And so when they it clicked right away when they what they were saying, and I was able to kind of follow them into a new opportunity. So that's how that one happened. There are times I talked about Google Apps where necessity was the mother of invention, even for Mill Frontier, where I saw the need and I could feel the need, and then I grabbed it and I made something out of it. So that's another way the opportunity arrived at your step. Um, uh, does that make sense? Yeah.
It
So it's
definitely does.
different. Sometimes
Definitely.
it comes from other people and you grab it as the train is moving forward. Sometimes you are the driver and you have noticed an opportunity and you just have the faith to make enough faith to make the leap on it.
Got it. I think this is something which I have been having in mind since a long time, not just for Google, but overall for the big companies, among companies overall. So like, especially when Google started introducing new products, especially let's say Gmail, Google One, all those products were demands of the future. They were not the necessity back like when they were started, right? So how does the product product roadmap work at Google from ideation till execution? See like how are those demands assessed?
I think, as I was mentioning, I think a large part of the culture that was cultivated, at least when I joined, was also to create space to look ahead. So you're always spending some amount of time. A typical one would be 70-20-10, where 10% of the time you you're thinking about what is the world going to look like in 5 years, for example, or more, longer term. 20% of the time you're looking at the next 2 years. 70% of the time is going on today's needs, right? So this kind of framework, and you can plug in your own percentages based on the company size and conditions of the market, etc. But it cannot be 100% on the present and nothing on the future. Otherwise, you will miss the future, right? So that's kind of kicks the framework really helps always think ahead and also look ahead to see what's coming, and you're not blinded, and it leads to more robust execution and product roadmap. So I would say most Google teams that I was part of followed some form of framework like this. Um, and set when you set OKRs, then you kind of use the same kind of 70-20-10 lenses towards it, towards this. Like, are we making objectives that are some are near term, some are mid term, some are long term, right? Um, I hope that helps
Understood.
answer the.
Yeah, that did. Uh, and I think we also have one question from the audience. Like, ideally, this is all usually a hot question where, you know, who do you pick? Do you pick an early stage startup, or do you pick an MNC to start your career with, or you start your product management journey with? So, like, definitely both have their pros and cons, but especially from your perspective, how would you go about it?
Well, when I graduated from Stanford, I didn't really have much choice. Like at that time, there were not that many startups and not that many opportunities. But when I interviewed with Sun, or when I interviewed with Google, like just the interview process itself was so challenging, and the people who were interviewing me were felt like they were a lot smarter than me, and I always felt like I could learn in this kind of environment and become a better version of myself. So for me, I think people I work with is like a big part of the filter I apply when I pick a new opportunity. And then the second filter I apply is this something I am passionate about personally? Because I like to work on things that matter to me and that matter to the world. So that has been a guiding post for me in terms of how I pick the next opportunity. I think that size of the company matters less to me. As you have seen, as you see from my journey, I've been
Yeah,
all over the
exactly.
place. So that's not been a factor, but it's like, does this idea appeal to me? Is it impactful to me? Does it speak to my own passions of things I want to leave a legacy about? Uh, those are the kind of things that have been the guiding post when I pick which opportunity to go after.
Got it. Thanks so much for that.
Yeah. One more question, Bhavani. I think most of the people that we have in the cohort right now is from India, and many of them obviously have that aspiration to work for global companies, or maybe go outside in US, Europe, and work for them. So the question is, does it make sense right now if you are into, let's say, maybe having 2 to 3 years of overall tech experience, looking to a good product role, to stay in India, or you should probably go do masters or try applying for some roles outside India, because in general the perception is that entire product culture, product management as a career is better suited in US. It started in US as well. So your take on this?
Yeah, I think when I came to US in 1990, things were very different, right? Most of the good, what you would consider good opportunities were in US at that time. I don't think that is true anymore. In fact, I was just in India for a month and a half in December, January, and I met a ton of entrepreneurs, and a lot of them had better ideas than I was thinking about in the space. And I could see there is such a buzz right now going on, and it's almost like what Silicon Valley was in the 90s. I feel that
Okay.
energy in India right now. This is more anecdotal and experiential than, like, it's not data driven hypothesis that I'm making here, but I would guess that it's equally good or maybe even more good in India right now with how things are going. And so I would not think too much about the location, and I would think much more about the scale of the opportunity and the growth it is going to afford you versus whether it's in India or US.
Got it. I think, do you want to touch a little bit on building products at Google and building products at Meta a little bit, on how is it different? Definitely, it would be different in a lot of sense. So, would love to
Yeah,
know a little bit
very
about that.
different companies. Very different companies inside. I think I'll start with what they have in both in common is the talent pool of people is amazing. I felt that in Google and I felt that in Meta. Uh, just the people you work with every day, you're inspired by them, you're struck. There was not a single day in either of those companies where I went in and I didn't meet someone who had brighter idea than me, or who was better than me, or was better engineer or better thinker, or more committed to the public good, or I mean, I can just go on and on. So that's one thing that both the companies have gotten right, which is the quality of people they have is just amazing. Um, um, what is very different is Google is much more intuition led. Like you feel the need, you see the need, you feel the need, you make a prototype in your 20% time, you move forward, right? And they give you freedom to do that, right? Meta is much more, I would say, a data-driven company, and much more into much more analytical, I would say, than Google, and more fast-moving than Google. Google is more intuition and more creative, and so I think there is place for both religions or both culture to do extremely well, but very different. Also, the way decisions are made are very different. I think Google is very unstructured and democratic, and the power is lies. Lower you are, more power you have at Google. Sometimes it felt like so a
Damn,
lot of
that's
managing was through influence at Google. Like you had to convince people and motivate people to be on your project. They had a lot of choice at all times. I think Meta is more structured in their thinking. Like when they decide to go after an area like AI or something, they really, or VR, they really go after it. Like people will just, it's it's more structured, and I would say more top down than Google is.
got it. Folks, do put in your questions in the chat section. Abhay, you want to take the next one?
Yeah, sure. So I think towards the end, Pavni, I think you mentioned more on the mentors, that you had been lucky to have good mentors. So I think, one question I saw on how do you have the right set of mentors? A, B, generally the mentor that you have, let's say at a year, 2 or 3 of your career, might not be someone that you feel, relevant at a year 7 or 8. So a, in early part of the career, is the mentor, should be from your career, should be from your industry, from your company, or as you grow forward, how do you make sure that you are still aligned with what you want in career, and mentors are continuously helping? So maybe you can give examples in terms of how and who were your mentors, and how people should go about mentoring.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I get this a lot. I haven't consciously gone after to get mentors. For me, they have just happened. So um, I think first mentor was Anita. I wouldn't even had put a label that Anita Borg was my mentor until very recently. I started talking about it because I realized that's what she was doing. And how I happened to come across her was I was at some I was in my first 2 years of on the engineering ladder, and then I saw that she was putting up Grace Hopper conference, and it sounded very intriguing to encourage women's representation in computer science, and it's something I'm passionate about. And so I signed up to volunteer for that conference. I was late in doing so. It turns out all the good posts were taken, but when she saw my enthusiasm, she wanted to channel the energy, and she put me in charge of, believe it or not, PR for the first Grace Hopper conference. I knew nothing about dealing with press. I learned everything on the fly with her guidance, but as part of that, I started working with her, and she really helped me for the first few years. And it was really great. At Sun was a very aggressive, very, very excellent engineering culture, but also pretty aggressive, where I felt frequently my voice was not heard. And she was very instrumental in giving me courage and tools to succeed. So I happened to come across her because I volunteered for a conference that she was driving. Um, and then she took keen interest in me. There was an internal mentor I also had at Sun, who was a distinguished engineer, Dwight, who really helped me early on learn how engineering was done. So I've always kind of tapped into people who were way more senior than me and looked up to them, and have started working with them, observing them. And so that's how I get an internal mentor to company. Like when I joined Google, I had a couple of these folks. And but I also try and keep an outside mentor at all times, because then you get a fresh perspective. Because sometimes you are like completely insulated in a large company and you can't see beyond your current project or your current roadmap, and it's important to have an outside lens looking at you and your performance and your growth and helping you along. um, Again, like Jeff Huber, I mentioned, I worked with him at Excite, and we kind of, he was the one who was instrumental in introducing Google to me and bringing me on board, and has always, and it still is, an amazing mentor. So I've been just thankful. So some people I've worked with, others on the outside, because people have interacted with me within orthogonal capacity. Sometimes, like for example, right now I have mentors at Meta, who have helped me grow there, and who are kind of keeping an eye out for me, an eye on me, on what all I'm doing. Uh, um, so I think I have found very rarely it comes from just networking. I think it comes from working with someone or having some um, legitimate surface area with them, so they get to know you and they take interest in your development.
Thanks.
Thanks
Thanks
so
for
much for that. I think we are done with a question, couple of questions. Yeah, we are done with questions. However, do you have anything else?
maybe I'll take the one final question. Wasn't highlighted that well, I think, in the Q&A tab, but for the context, Pavni, we also run a very small close knit community of women in product. Specifically started just 1 year back, and there was one very like small question in chat that in this entire tech ecosystem, which is primarily something where people feel it's male dominated. So how do you develop and go about showcasing your track record, and also making sure you are surrounded by right set of female kind of a mentors, or kind of proving how do you go exactly in your role, how do you step up in your role within the same companies also, because these are the kind of things that we do not discuss in these open forums, but we discuss in those kind of women in product community forums. But I thought we'll probably pick it up because you have touched base the entire career mentoring, entire journey of how you should go as an individual very well. So probably this will also mix well with that.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there are three things I always say to women based on my experiences. I think the most difficult thing to do is to find our own voice and practice it, be assertive about our own interests. And I think it's incredibly important. Early on as an engineer, I would be in teams, and like, especially this happened at Sun, like, and literally I had to, in one meeting, I had to start shouting before I would be heard, right? And but I only had to do that once because the people were pretty good. It just, there was unconscious bias in the room that I bashed by just raising my voice once. Uh, and So I always use that as an example, saying find that inner voice and use it. Be bold about it. Be assertive about it. The second thing I say is that pick environments wisely, because there are some environments that are just going to be toxic and not very supportive. And I think that as women we work differently, and we need we need a supportive environment to rise up. Um, um, so that's another thing I say is if it's not working out, don't be shy about making a change. And then the third thing is lift others as you go up. I've always found a lot of help from women who were more senior than me. For example, I talked a lot about learning how to communicate better, and I had a woman leader at Google who was in marketing who took a keen interest in helping me, and I am very appreciative of that. And so I've always found women who have helped me, and I try to do the same. Where women, not just women, but also men as mentors, right? So I think that's also really important. So those would be the three things I would say. And it is not a level playing field yet. It's getting there, but it's not yet, right? So I think it is important to accept that and work accordingly.
Got it. I'm not sure if Avoy mentioned that earlier, but we also run this community called Women in Product, which is sub-community of TPF, which is exclusively for women in product because exactly what you said right now, people come here, it is a closed door community, not everyone gets access to it. I just put in a link for everyone in the chat. If you're a women in product, feel free to reach out to the team and we'll get back to
Yeah.
you.
And I just, I think Alap, maybe we'll connect Pawni separately with women in product team also, because
Definitely.
those sessions are not, kind of open discussions like this. It's always close night, small group sessions. So folks, you can join, the community. We'll try to have, Pawni, if she is available, maybe for some of the future sessions for women in product specifically. So I think, Pavni, with this, probably we'll close the Q&A, session for today. Amazing insights. I think from the start of the session, I think probably from the first, slide itself, everyone were enjoying the entire presentation. There, pretty good commentary happening on the chat to and fro. We'll probably share some snippets with you after the session. But everyone, loved the grit, loved how have you shared the entire journey. And the important aspect was people could relate to it. Like people could always say, this is something that can happen to me, this is something I could have done, I should have done, this is something I should learn also. So people absolutely loved that you spoke in a manner that it was relatable to entire audience.
Got it.
um
Thank you
yes.
so
Just a
much.
quick
No, I have enjoyed being here, and I just wanted to say that I believe in this cause, and
Thank you so much. Really appreciate
I
it.
believe in the audience. I think anyone, if I can come from a middle class background in India and get to this place, anyone can. And I truly believe it. So all you have to do is believe in yourself and keep growing. So thank you so much.
Thanks for very humble of you to say.
Just
I
one
think,
thing
yeah,
before that, sorry to interrupt. Pavni, what would be the best platform to reach out to? Does LinkedIn work where probably audience can get in touch with you, they can message you, like, connect with you? Is that the best place?
Yeah. Link. You can always, anyone can, if there are questions that you didn't get answers to, anyone, also please reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, and also email. So anything works. Thank you.
Perfect.
super. We
Thanks so
have
much.
shared your LinkedIn, I think, so people can get. I think Alap will probably take a quick final photo before we
Yes.
hop off. Yeah. So
We'll just do a smile and people can take a screenshot. So we have a challenge which goes on every week where people post learnings of the session on Instagram and LinkedIn. Sorry, Twitter and LinkedIn. So
correct.
they'll post these photos there. So just a quick smile and
Maybe thumbs up. Yeah.
victory, thumbs up, whatever works.
Super. So
Perfect.
I think probably me and Alap, will spend probably next, 10 minutes just discussing a few after session announcements with the audience. So yeah,
Thank
I
you so
think
much for joining in. Really appreciate the session, and you'll see a lot of tags coming in from the audience on LinkedIn very soon.
absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks, Swami. Bye.
Bye,
Yes.
everyone. I think I love the session. Abhay. How about you?
Absolutely. I think entire session, all the stories and anecdotes. I think it was not just a learning session where we were just receiving insights. It was actually most of it was actually backed by Pavni's own experience, how she went about it, and I think chat was buzzing throughout. I think I loved that most of the people were just keep having enjoying this entire session. So, folks, put it in the chat. How was the session? What did you like? This was also the first time that we were hosting Pauli in any of the TPF session. But absolutely loved the way that she has shared all of her learnings, how to go about career, and yeah, if I think I think Allah, we will be having her more from now on because audience has absolutely loved the session.
Amazing. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining in for the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
final
So
session.
I'll just
We have a
share.
slide to share, right?
Yes, we'll just share the final few slides and announcements. I think. So yes, I think one announcement was on the entire assignments that you share after the session, each session. Many people had the questions on when we'll be getting the rewards and all of that. I think the I'll clarify it for most of the folks. The in session assignments, which is you basically answering the pop quiz, you should have received by now because it was live during the session. People were receiving Swiggy. I think for one of the sessions, some people might receive on the next day. So all of those rewards are already done. In case you have still not received, do ping Mansukh here or maybe on a WhatsApp. Second was session and assignments where after each individual sessions, everyone I think has were very very creative to share their learnings in different manners, to add infographics, to to add videos, and make their assignment submission as interesting as possible. So we have announced the winners for most of the sessions so far. I think last one or two sessions will be still pending, but we have announced the session for all the previous winners for all the previous sessions. You will be receiving the message now, probably from Vineet. If not, I have actually pinged her name somewhere in chat. You can search on LinkedIn Vineet Shah, the product folks, and just tag him in case you have still not received the message. So those rewards will be shipped, I think, most likely by the end of this week or early next week. So Vineet will be reaching out to you, but in case you've still not been contacted and you are one of the winners, you can just go and ping Vineet on LinkedIn. Uh, Yes, and overall, I think the entire Insurjo, we had the chat and the feedback from individual, as good as what we had in this session, right from the first session we had with Ravi to the final session that we have now had today with Pavni. One thing that we had make sure for all the sessions that we had with this Insurjo was we basically tried to make it interactive. We had problem solving sessions. We had live case studies, live breakdowns of the product, which was not something we had ever done in previous Insurjo. So this was kind of a level up from previous Insurjo. So now if you expect to, if you imagine Insurjo 25, it will be one level up from here. We will not be covering the basics or probably let's say 201s that we covered this time. It will be more advanced next year as well. So be prepared for it. In case you have not gone through any of the specific sessions, you can still go through. Few people had the question when I think Marty's session would get uploaded. Marty's session is live today already. You can go to YouTube. In case you are still not taken the notes from Marty's session, you can take the notes and you can share those. One more clarity I think was required on the Anuj session, Anuj Rati. I think from the extreme request from Anuj, we had only had the session live specifically for 48 hour, and it was only for his session. The rest of the sessions we had kept for longer also. So you can go and take notes, share your notes, and submit it because we are near to end of the cohort now, and you will be asked for all those links of assignments, all those links of notes that you have shared on social. So be prepared with those. Watch parties, I think not in Sergio did not only happen offline, sorry, online. It happened offline also. We had multiple watch parties from the sessions of Nalin, from the session of Marty, with the session of Anuj also, and we had these watch parties happening in Pune, Bangalore, Mumbai, Chennai. Some of you would have joined that. So this is also something that we do every year, and the response this year was also pretty amazing across all the cities. We did it in 4 cities across the country. Uh, what have we covered so far in Insurjo? Live session is already done. Session level assignments and mini assignments you have already started working. I think week one assignment was a bit longer, which was onboarding assignment, which is also being finished by majority of you. Next, we will be, I think, launching and making like the product onboarding hackathon, which is the final mega assignment. Obviously, all you should have finished all the session notes as assignments. You should have also finished weekly assignments or mini, week assignments. And then third will be your product and onboarding hackathon that you need to participate and submit the decks for it. I'll quickly come to the onboarding hackathon announcements also. But yeah, this is what you need to do to submit your final assignments to get the certification for Insurgio 24. Yeah, we had 9 speakers, 9 live sessions, and we are going to have one more demo day. But absolutely all the sessions had equal amount of love, equal amount of participation, equal amount of engagement from each one of you. You had joined from different parts of the country, different part of the world also. So many people, I have in my WhatsApp who had been, joining from US. From their time it will be morning, so always joining in early morning time to attend Insurjo specific sessions. So we loved that absolutely, and we know and we will continue to provide more and more value content to all the product folks community going further also. Yeah, I think quick poll we can do in the chat. We had 9 sessions, right? From Ravi to Rishi to Anshumani to Nalin to Marcelino to Anuj, and then Marty, Ankur, and Pawni this week. So, which was your favorite session? Which was the most favorite session? Maybe you can add one or two names also. And Alab, you can probably help me with names people are writing down in the chat.
People have loved Anshumani's session a lot and Rishi's session a lot.
Yeah.
Oh damn! Everyone has loved Anshumani's session. Oh, now I'm getting more and more Rishi, Anuj,
Yeah, so in case
Marcelino.
few folks have still missed, I think Anshumani's session is still live on YouTube, so you can go to YouTube and check that session. It was actually a live case study, split between I think 2 or 3 examples of actual products of on which Anshumani had worked on, Anshumani had built at Hotstar. So I can understand the excitement coming from the audience. Yep. Ankur session, we have 2 winners, Shubham Kumar and Sai Smita Petro. So kudos to both of you. As mentioned, for session notes, Vineet from TPF team will be reaching out to you to give you the rewards. And I think quick shout out to the entire team. From Alap, Abhay, me, Alap, Abhishek, Achlesh, Aditya, Amisha, so many of these people who made the entire Insurjo possible. In case you get time, you want to give a shout out, give shout out to all of them. Maybe take a screenshot and put it on your socials. In case you like the session, like all the sessions, you like the Insurjo, and want to give a quick shout out. One more thing, I think most of you might not have noticed this so far, but I think as we are coming close to the final sessions, you can add actually Insurjo in your experience. Most of the, I mean, I have seen few people have done it so far, but in case you still have not done, we will recommend that you add Insurjo as experience. I'll just quickly share the page link. You can basically go add experience as Insurgent 24 cohort member, and that should help you get some credibility, some visibility on your timeline as well. The link is here in chat, so you can add it in your experience section of LinkedIn, that Insurgio 24 cohort member, and all of that. Reju product intern, too early, I guess. Yeah. Next, and a few people had asked on, I think, the volunteering bit. Alap, if you can also put the entire volunteering link in the chat.
I'll do
So in
that.
case, Yeah, in case folks, you liked what we had done, at Insurgent and what TPF as a community do, then it is thanks to all the 70 plus big team of
Volunteer.
volunteers. It is entirely volunteer driven. The community is something that we have been running for more than 4 years now, and it is always set of volunteers, set of team members who make it happen. So completely volunteer driven community that we have been building so far, and would love any of you to join in, be a volunteer and start working with the team. The two most exciting thing that you can get as a part of joining in TPF as a volunteer. First will be working in a high agency environment. uh, all the and second will be you learning how to be high ownership, high productivity, and how high output individual. Because all the team members that you see here or anyone who works at TPF, they are extremely high ownership, just now what Pawni had mentioned. And if you think high ownership is something that you have not seen, you would like to become a part of, then probably the TPF is the place to go. All the team members always work on a high ownership level. They know what are their responsibility, and they always finish it. I know. So you would love working in these kind of environments. If you are early in your careers, or if you're probably spend few years in your career, then you would absolutely love these kind of environments. So you can join the volunteering team. Alap has already shared the form. Again, announcements on the ISB, we had shared multiple times, specific access codes. You would receive a separate email also for this, in terms of how to get certified in product management. There are exclusive discount coupon codes which ISB do not provide at any other platforms, which they were specifically given to only and only Insurjo members. So you can access the course from ISB. You can use those discount coupons, discount codes, and get certified in product management by ISB. What's next? I think, as mentioned at the start of the session, we are officially live with product onboarding hackathon, and here are the important dates that you need to keep in mind. 26th Feb, we will be doing virtual or Slack AMA. More details in terms of where to join will be shared on a day prior to the session. Before 1st March, you should be submitting your decks. If you want to know how a typical teardown decks look like, go to the productfolks.com/teardowns. We have probably 50 plus top decks being submitted by members over a period of last 2 years across multiple teardowns. So you can take those as a reference, take those as benchmarks, start building on those, and then submit your onboarding hackathon decks. On 6th of March, we will be announcing the top winners, and those people will be presenting in front of the jury, which will basically be consisting of top leaders from vScope, where you will be actually showcasing your entire onboarding decks. And 9th of March will be demo day, where the top teams will be presenting, and the other folks, other teams can also join and learn in terms of what they, how does a top decks look like, how to create top decks, and how do companies evaluate, product decks. So you can imagine, this is a kind of a mini interviews happening in front of you, happening live, happening in public, right? Kind of a mock interview, but in public, kind of a scenario. So keep those dates in mind. 26 Feb AMM, 1st March submission deadline, and 9th March will be your demo day. Yep. And super, I think with this we come to the end of the session, end of official speaker sessions for Insurjo is what how I would like to announce. Again, if you have attended all the live sessions, do share your learnings with hashtag Insurjo with TPF. Participate on weekly assignment that has already been launched, and submit the final hackathon submissions to receive certificate, to become eligible to receive the certificate for Insurjo 24. And yeah, with this, I think it will be me and Alap, signing off.
Signing off.
So
Thank you
there
so
are,
much, everyone, for joining in. It was really fun having you. I think Insurjo keeps happening, but we also do multiple other cohorts a year. Do join those. Those are the 201s in the space of product management. So would love to have you all there. Super excited to sign off the cohort with Abhay and the TPF team.
Super, super, super. Thanks, folks. With that, we'll get to end of the session. Yeah.
Feel free to reach out to us on WhatsApp or email, and we'll be happy to assist you.